and welcome to Cold Outreach Success Stories, where we interview regular business people just like you who had success on cold outreach with email and other channels. We go deep into their process with hot tips around personalization, messaging, and targeting so that you can take away tips to use in your cold outreach starting tomorrow. Today, we have Kara from Lead Coverage. Welcome to the show, Kara.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
Awesome to have you on. So tell us a little bit more. What do you guys do and how do you make money?
Yeah. Lead Coverage is a revenue operations shop, and we do this only for supply chain management companies. So our niche is very, very specific, but supply chain management is a $2 trillion market.
Wow.
So tiny niche, big TAM. We're very happy. We have lots and lots of customers, and we have barely scratched the surface of what's available for us just in our niche. So we do analyst relations, public relations, all things revenue operations, cold email, outbound, inbound, and then we actually have a team that will make the first dial. So we don't make cold calls, but we will make warm calls after someone has gone through the whole process. So every day, all day for trucks, planes, and boats.
I love that. I have so many people on, and some agencies I talk to, like, not gonna name names, but they don't know their niche. But like, there's that saying, right? There's riches and niches, and I love that you're very narrow, right? And then you realize it's certainly a $2 trillion industry, right? So it's not like it's a small niche.
It's a big niche. Supply chain, we think of in three ways. The actual companies that move boxes, right? So physical movement of goods. This is trucking companies, carriers, etc. The tech that moves those goods. So this is transportation management software, freight management software, fleet management software, robots in the warehouses, tracking ocean container shipping, and then the money that moves the goods, which is supply chain fintech. So paying truck drivers faster, paying carriers faster, paying your ocean provider faster. So it's kind of cool because it's a $2 trillion market, but there's some really cool tech stuff happening in supply chain.
Interesting. I'm curious, like, how did you niche down? Like, what was your process like?
So I was the 12th employee at a company called Echo Global Logistics in 2006, very sexy. We grew 3,000% in 3 years. And my boss came by and he said, "Hey, we're going to do an IPO. Do you want to help?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll Google that. Sure, I'll figure it out." They were so kind. The men that ran the company let me sort of come along for the ride. That was, if you were in an office, which we're not in an office anymore, but there's always the one young hustler, right? Like there's a young person that like will do anything and be anywhere and take on any task. And I was that girl. And they said, "Hey, instead of hiring a $100,000 investor relations person, let's just see if Kara can figure it out." And I did. So they let me do that. And I've stayed in supply chain ever since. So happy accident. But the second half of that is really that the go-to-market sort of community in supply chain is really lax. So there's just not a lot of great marketers that are working for SalesLoft or Outreach or these cool, sexy companies that are like, I think I'm going to go try supply chain. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So there's a dearth, there's a missing sort of, bucket of really great marketing and sales consultant or go-to-market talent. And so we fill that bucket for most of our clients.
Interesting. I love that. I mean, these boring, unsexy industries, like, I don't mean boring in a bad way. Boring is good, right?
Oh, it's okay. I'll take it.
boring is good, right? So, but then these, like, once you really see the size of it, then you realize, okay, like, this is like massive, right?
The other thing that's really exciting about this space is because the deals are so big, the average ARR of a deal for our clients is $1 to $10 million.
Wow.
So I don't need to get you 5,000 meetings a month.
Yeah.
I need to get you 4.
Yeah.
Right? So it just makes the pressure, right?
Yeah.
Sort of takes the pressure off from like volume. And this is sort of fast forwarding to what we do, but we measure volume, velocity, and value. Those are our 3 big KPIs.
Yeah.
And so for us, we actually hired a guy at one point who had come from Coca-Cola,
Mhm.
And he was having a hard time understanding why the volume of our lists were so low and the volume of inbound, like, buying signals was so low. And I was like, whoa, dude, like, we're not selling bottles of Coke.
Yeah.
We're selling, $10 million robots for warehouses. Like, these are enormous installs. They take a lot longer to close, but
Yeah.
the deal size we're dealing with is huge. So we don't need 5,000. We need 4 to 6 that are exactly the right buyer, that have exactly the right problem.
Interesting. So that brings me to my next question, right? So when you're doing this low volume, essentially account-based marketing and sales,
Yeah,
right?
it's a very ABM style.
Yeah. So how does the whole process change? Like I'm not very familiar with that side of things. I'm mostly high volume SMB, 5,000 ACV deals. So I'd love to know more about how that works.
I'm happy to share because I think some of the things we've learned can be shared with SMB. We actually have a lot of clients that go after SMB. Quick side, if you think about the truck market, so trucking companies, small trucking companies, more than 1 million of them in the US, like somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million in the US, that's an SMB play. So we actually do play in SMB too. So the methodology that we use, and I want you to hear me say, we don't use words like RevOps, GTM, brand. We use easy to understand words because my customers are supply chain guys, right? So the way that we use it is share good news. So this is analyst relations, public relations, anything that like gets someone interested in what you're selling. So this is content, this is blog posts, SEO stuff, but for us, it's really about market specific activities. So that means like the top 100 supply and demand chain executive projects, or we have a new executive, or we have a new product, right? So share good news. Once we share that good news, we're a HubSpot diamond shop, and we track most of it in HubSpot. We can use Pardot and Salesforce and Marketo too, but all of the buying signals on that shared good news lives in HubSpot. So we're doing all of the workflows, optimization, everything in HubSpot. Then we make the first dial, so we follow up, right? And that's really the high level, sort of not very sophisticated engine that we do. But the key for us is we have to share market specific news. What we've learned is if we try to just do revenue operations, we try to just sort of optimize what you're already doing, or come up with like, I don't know, blog posts or white papers, sort of this not market specific content, just sort of basic content, just doesn't work. Or it doesn't work as well as the market specific content, right? So we've learned market specific public relations style content, put it into the HubSpot engine, and then once someone shows enough buying signals, picking up the phone and making the first dial. And it works for us.
Interesting. What kind of signals are these? Like, what do you typically share?
It's very specific, but I like this example because it works like a charm. So in the supply chain space, all of the trade press and even your competitors are looking for the 2% edge that's going to get you to get Walmart to pay attention, or Petco to pay attention, right? They're all looking for these giant shippers. And so we put together an index, and an index in our world might be like Shopify could do this. Shopify could say, here's the small business e-commerce index. Maybe they even have one. I don't know. They're not in my market. But so if you have something that you have proprietary data on, you share on a regular basis this, we call it an index, right? And so the press picks up the index, you can put the index on a landing page. We then promote the index on LinkedIn and Google. We don't do a lot on Facebook, but LinkedIn and Google, it's your thought leadership into the marketplace on a very specific topic that you have expertise on. Then we make sure, this is the key. The key is one question. Do you own every email address of the humans who could buy from you?
Oh, interesting.
9 times out of 10, the answer is no. So for our space, there are 19,677 shippers. So this is Kellogg's, Tyson Foods, right? Procter & Gamble. There are 20,000 of them that are over 500 million in revenue, which means they have enough shipment volume to make them very interesting to most of our clients. So if you only have 20,000 in your TAM, you should have at least 20,000 records.
Yeah.
right? One from each company, probably two. So
Yeah.
about 40,000 records. Most of the time we start with clients and they have 1,000, 2,000, and no one's paying attention to the list engine, right? What is in your CRM? Do you own every record? And so we spend a lot of time with our clients doing sort of ABM style list management, and making sure that they have every record of every human that can buy from them, so that when we share the good news and we're reaching the marketplace, that we know that we're hitting anyone who might be interested.
Interesting. Okay, now let's move on to the follow-up. Let's say someone raises their hand, they're interested. What does that look like?
So Inside Sales and Harvard did a study in 2016. It's a little old, but 2016, it says if you can talk to a human within 5 minutes of them showing you a buying signal, you have a 900% better chance of closing that deal.
Wow.
900. And it goes down dramatically at 10 minutes. So for us, it's all about speed. When someone shows us a buying signal, a download, a quote request form, a contact us, it is as close to 5 minutes as we can possibly get. So our team of humans that are ready to make dials, hey, see you're interested in supply chain visibility, right? Getting them as fast as possible is most important to us. And it depends on the client, how low the barrier is, right? We stopped doing any open because an email open isn't what it used to be.
Yeah.
You and I both know that.
Yeah.
So we do raise the bar above an email open, but we're a HubSpot diamond shop. So we can see hits, email visits, or visits to landing pages. We can see downloads, and then we actually throw in LinkedIn. So because the market is relatively small, we can also take a look at buying signals on social. It's really hard, it's manual, right? It's not an automated process, but if we have that sort of short list that they've given us, the client, like an ABM list, pulling those buying signals out of social make a lot of sense. Then inside HubSpot, because most of our work is enterprise, we create the buying committee inside HubSpot. So do we have the economic buyer? Are we sure that we know the person who's going to be able to, be a barrier, et cetera? And then we pass that off to the client sales team.
Interesting. So you actually go beyond just, like, hey, we called them and that is it. You also do like an account mapping thing.
Yeah, we like to call it a dossier, right? So it's sort of a, and remember, we're not doing volume. So it's a lot easier to do this when you have, I think for our most successful campaigns, we have 25 of these a week, which is a lot, but we've got 30 folks in the team. So like we've got folks that can handle it for us. And that client pays us enough money that we can handle capturing all of that. We wouldn't do it for a small account, but yeah, at that sort of volume, we can create a dossier that says, okay, this is how many times they called, and it all comes out of HubSpot for the most part. We're doing a little bit of pulling out of LinkedIn, but by the time they've done that many buying signals, we know they're in a buying cycle, right? They're in that 5% that HubSpot says are actually buying. And then we're using intent tools too, right? So the intent tools tell us, either demand-based or Sixth Sense, propensity, depending what the client has. They tell us, hey, these are interested buyers, right? And they're looking at these other things that are adjacent to what you sell. Although in supply chain, it's interesting because someone who's interested in a new warehouse is also going to be interested in new brokerage services or freight services out of that warehouse. So sometimes we can extrapolate, hey, they're not right for us now, but they will be right for us later. So let's keep them warm, right? Nurture them until it's time to talk to them about becoming another partner.
Interesting. So is it mostly calls, or do you do like full multi-channel? As soon as hand is up, you email them, you call them, whatever, like show up at their door, whatever.
Full multi-channel. To truck drivers or small owner operators, SMS is the best way to get in front of them. So if they put up a buying signal, oftentimes it's through HubSpot. So on the SMB side, we do some of this work too. On the SMB side, truck drivers, they are showing buying signals on Facebook, sometimes in HubSpot, not a lot of email. A lot of it comes through SMS.
Got it. Interesting. So those are the channels. Perfect. So in terms of mistakes, what are the top mistakes that you did when you first
mistakes. Letting our client into HubSpot that we own. was a big mistake. So we do a lot of 0 to 1 HubSpots, a lot. And HubSpot has gone from kind of an easy to use tool to like a very robust and sophisticated CRM and marketing automation engine. And sometimes our clients go in and make pretty big errors. So because it's a DIY tool, like I'm a former Salesforce admin, so I never had to worry about someone going in and screwing up my work in Salesforce because you physically couldn't, right? Like you could put things in the wrong place, but you couldn't change a field. But HubSpot, because it's so open, we've had clients like upload lists and emails, put us in the email doghouse, like, so sort of locking down HubSpot in a way that is in between sort of a super open CRM and sales. I don't need a Salesforce level, restrictions, but something in between there. That's a mistake for sure. The other sort of higher level mistake, like a more strategic mistake we've made is steering out of our niche, right? When I get on the phone with someone who is a billion-dollar freight broker or newish startup in supply chain, I know exactly who they are. I know who their competitors are. I know how they fit in the marketplace. I know who their customers are. I physically know them, right? We know humans in this space. When we leave supply chain, we fail.
I see.
Because I don't know med tech. I don't know pharma. Like I don't know these other industries the way that I know supply chain. So when I talk to private equity or venture capital about us, right, they're always like, oh, well, would you ever, go from supply chain into manufacturing? And I'm like, why would I do that? I've got a $2 trillion market in front of me that we have like barely scratched the surface on. Why would I want to go learn a whole new industry, right? So part of the reason that we can charge a premium, and we do, is because of that very clear expertise in this very specific market, and it's worked for us. So when I deviate from that, I fail.
Yeah, I mean, this discipline thing, right? Like it's important to sort of keep exercising that discipline. Yeah, but like sometimes you just let yourself go a little bit, and then you're like, okay, this is why I shouldn't, right?
Yeah, and it's hard because you don't ever want to let anyone down. I think the other part that's hard is, I've got 30 folks that count on me, right, to run this company. And when I close a deal, I don't work the deal anymore, right? So if I close, let's just say I close, someone on your podcast is like, she's brilliant and I want to work with her, and I run a med tech startup, right? And they convinced me to work for them because they're going to pay me $1 million a year. I don't know, something silly. And I hand that to my team. Yeah. It's not me that will feel the pain. I will feel no pain. They will feel the pain. And so as a leader, I don't want to set them up to fail, right? They'll quit. And then I have a whole nother problem on my hands. And so I think if we say no a lot. And then the other thing I've learned is that we say no to dropping below the minimum, right? Our minimum commitment is $20,000 a month with a 12-month retainer. So if you don't have $240,000 to spend on this, we'll wait until you're ready, right? Because a smart man taught me a long time ago that it costs you just as much to run a $2,500 account as it does a $250,000 account. And he was 100% right. They want exactly the same things. They want exactly the same amount of attention, right? It's going to cost you more to run that little baby account than it will the big one. And so we've done really, really good job of increasing our minimum and then sticking to it.
Interesting. Awesome. Brings me to my final question. Any particular things you're excited about trying to improve your process?
Yes, I am really excited about all things intent data. We were actually the first demand-based agency partner. So we've been with demand-based for a while. I really, really like the Sixth Sense tool. And then there's a new one called Propensity that is really native to HubSpot instead of Salesforce. So a lot of the intent tools are MarTech CRM led. So you have to have either HubSpot or Salesforce to plug them into. But I'm really excited, especially in B2B, about identifying the buying signals that work for our specific vertical and being able to replicate those across all of our clients. So while none of our clients are directly competitive, they all share very similar characteristics. So being able to use like the propensity model, Seamus, the CEO there, will let you buy it by the drink. So being able to share the results of the propensity we did for a transportation software client with a broker, for us is really exciting. So I'm excited to see what happens with the same way that early on the outreaches and sales lofts of the world were super expensive and they were sort of out of touch for most SMBs. Now we can all do it in HubSpot, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the democratization of these tools will follow the same path, and we will eventually all have access to intent data the same way the big guys do. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to more of my clients being able to afford it, because right now it's a little expensive, but we think it's great when we get to use it.
Yeah, I mean, intent data is one of those things, right? Like it all follows a adoption cycle, right? Like the first version is super expensive, and then I've heard even like SMB tools like Apollo getting in intent data right there. I don't know how good it is. Like I've not used it because SMB, right? Like intent in SMB is always tricky, while like in bigger companies it's definitely better, especially, and lately intent is getting harder to crack with things like working from home coming up, right? Because the IPs are hard to track. It's going to be a residential IP, and I don't know if they.
Yeah, it's funny for us, like our specific, I'll give you an example. So when I sat down with the guys from Propensity, I said, here are all of my supply chain keywords. Let's just give it a shot. And they pulled up, the first one that pulled up was Aldi, which is a grocery store, right? And they had looked at, someone at Aldi had researched XPO, Sawgrass, and Geodis in the last 30 days, which to you means nothing. But to me, as someone who's in the space, I know that those are all warehouse companies.
Interesting.
So I know in my brain, I can extrapolate quickly, Aldi's looking for warehouse space.
I see.
So if I have a warehouse client, I'm going to call my client and be like, Aldi's looking for warehouse space. You should probably get in on that RFP, right? Like we know there's an RFP, it's Aldi, they're huge. So that's for us, the power of intent. Because it didn't take, I didn't even give them a client. I just told them, show me supply chain keyword, right? And I got this very specific example. So for us, being in the niche and knowing the niche so well, I will be able to make real value calls for my clients just based on the macro data. I don't need you to tell me exactly what's happening here, because I know all of these customers have something that my clients need. So I'm really looking forward to like that moment where I can say, hey, I'm doing this myself. Like we're running these campaigns and I'm going to feed you these leads because I can see that this is the buying activity that's happening in the marketplace. That's pretty cool.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the democratization is going to happen the same way. Like you mentioned, all the big tech tools, the cost comes down because not everyone is going to pay you like pay a software like $20,000 a month, right? To use it.
The other thing I'm really excited about, this is a shameless plug for Lavender. I'm sure you've heard of the tool Lavender, Will and Will, they're amazing. I'm very, very fortunate to be, I was with them from the very beginning. We help with their go-to-market and I'm on the cap table. So shameless plug for all things Lavender, because I think they're awesome. We use them for every single sequence we build and all the things we write. So that's another thing I'm really excited about is what is AI going to do to the space and how much more efficient and effective can we be?
Yeah, I mean, I love the Will and the two Wills. I met them over.
The Wills.
I actually met them over at SaaStr last September, and they had the whole wizard hat and all the cool swag. Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, generative AI is one of those things that, you know, I just bought like a GPT-4 subscription, like best friend, I think. So we're just starting to scratch the surface in the application space. All right, Kara, lovely having you on. That's it from my end. And I definitely enjoyed our conversation, and I hope our listeners did too.
Me too. Thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
So that's all the time we have, folks. I really enjoyed the episode. I hope you did too. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, whatever you can to spread the word out about cold outreach success stories so more people can enjoy and learn from the show. All right, that's all, folks. Bye-bye.